Arch Enemy is one of the Sweden's best known bands, at least when it comes to melodic death metal, which is something that only Swedes can produce. I don't know how this magic happens, but what we have here is a bass player who knows these secrets. He has all the keys. So what is in the Swedish tap water that makes your music so special?
I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
But if I could resurrect it, you could basically try.
Right. Certain minerals that can't be found anywhere else in the world. One is sort of like the genetic code of boredom, so you have to do something about it. I think that's what it is, basically. Sweden is not a very... I mean, it's a great country in many ways, but it's a little bit gloomy. Well, I mean, I don't have to tell a Finn about that, but...
But the foreigners who live in like California sun, they have no clue.
Exactly. No, but I think all of it just comes out of like there's you like a certain kind of music and there's nothing of the kind going on, so you just do it yourself. People, to create a scene, start to set up shows, and bands rehearsing in the same sort of place, or like everything just spins from something little. So it's hard to say, but I mean. And then I think it's the same thing as it is with the Finnish, that it's like there's a little bit of folk music in it as well. That's sort of like the ground, the melancholy comes from there. And then you just combine that with brute force and voila.
I could pretty much agree with, I mean, like everybody who knows anything about Nordic music, be it death metal, black metal, or just kind of a basic heavy metal, knows this kind of a gloominess. And like you said, melancholy, it's a big part of this whole kind of Nordic metal culture. Mm-hmm. And that kind of seeps in. But I mean, Swedes, you're all also, pop music, rock music, basically every music you touch turns to golden. So, I mean... if you would touch another genre, would it be successful?
Yes.
That is a very, very simple question. A very simple answer to a very simple question. So besides Arch Enemy, you are also a man behind many other bands. And I mean, you're Spiritual Beggars, you have Witchery, which also released an album not too long time ago. How you can cope with all of this?
Well, I mean, what else to do if you have some time over? I don't really know anything else, so I like to get together with people and play music. Very single-minded in that sense. So I think that's it. I mean, I don't really, when your hobby becomes your job all of a sudden.
Your lifestyle.
Exactly, yeah. And then what do you do when you have time over? Well, I don't build like model trains or anything like that. My hobby is still music, so it's on off days it's going to be more music. That's just the way it works.
Do those other bands work as a kind of a, say, therapy project, or kind of a balancing things out with your main band Arch Enemy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's playing like different types of music is you can sort of get to like revisit other parts of your own like musicality. And it's sort of like a musical vacation, if you know what I mean. You get to sort of like clear out some of the stuff that you've been doing and like get some new influences, and also because you play with other people, which is really important. That's I think the key ingredient for doing other things. It's like playing with other people that have other ways of doing music. Because if it's just like you play with the same like other four people the whole time, it's like it can still be good, but it's like it's good to get some other perspective sometimes. So that's sort of the I think that's the main reason for doing it.
So you've been quite a long time in the band. So you've witnessed also some lineup changes in the past, but you've been always, as a band, very very cool and professional, and like conquering those lineup changes not so much as a problems. What is your key strength to solve these issues?
I think it's just it's just that strive to like just move forward, and of course, I mean, when somebody leaves, somebody who's important to the band, it's like first thought, it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do now? But then that question turns into actually, what are we going to do now? And then you start discussing it, and then you move forward. I mean, it's difficult. Like our last singer change, for example, like was it 4 or 5 years ago now. It was extremely difficult because Angela was, I mean, she was not by far the first one who did what she did. I mean, there were women growling before her, but on sort of like on that kind of like level. So she became sort of like slightly iconic, and we didn't know what to do. Like, well, what are we going to do now? We were just going to say goodbye, say we had a few good years, it's fine. But then again, what we did have was a whole bunch of music that was already written, and we thought that music was too good to just throw away. So we just sat down and we just, okay, well, what do? We need to find another singer. And then we just like pen and paper, any contestants, one name came up. We just like, okay, well, let's call her. And she said yes. So, that's the thing. But also, what we did was that we kept it under lock and key. We kept it secret for a year. So, because if we hadn't, people, if you just like, okay, first you say like, well, singers quit, people will be like upset, and then somebody else, well, here's the new singer, and everybody's just going to hate her. They're going to make up their mind. So that's what we made sure, like, before we presented it, that we had new music and a new video and everything, just to sort of, so people didn't make up their minds without hearing or seeing anything. So that was that is one of the key things. Also, you have to have a little bit of strategy in what you're doing.
A little bit PR.
Exactly. You have to think a little bit like ahead. You don't just go out and do stuff, like think about it beforehand.
Like posting on social media?
But exactly. It's like, keep quiet with things when people don't need to know it. You know what I mean? Because like people, well, you know what it's like out there in that world.
I know that Angela was still probably would be, if she would like an active vocalist, but really strong performer. But I know this is kind of a bold statement, but I think you kind of stepped up even to a new, different level with Alissa, because, her vocals are even more stronger. I think that alone is, making you a kind of a prime example how good, growling vocals a female vocalist can be. But was it an easy find? Were you just lucky, or did you have to go a lot of through auditions to go to a point where you are now?
No, but see, that was the thing. As I said, we were sitting down, me and Michael and Daniel, and we just like basically pen and paper, like, okay, names. One name came up, and then it was just silence for 10 minutes. So it was like, okay, I guess we got to call her. And then she said yes, and then she came over to Sweden, and we tried out with some old songs, and we would just like, we tried a few songs, and it was like, good, and then, she went to the bathroom, and we were just like, she just like, such a musical way of tackling things, and she's like, so easy for her to learn like new stuff and things, and then it was great. And also then we went straight into making an album, and she was very much a part of the creative process as well. So there were no auditions for anybody. It was just her basically, and there was one tryout, and we knew, and so we didn't have to go through with, testing a lot of people out, because that's it's difficult, and it's a very tedious process, I think. So no, we were lucky, very lucky.
You also did one of your best albums, at least if you ask me. Nobody's asking, but I'm anyway telling that Will to Power is, at least to me, it sounds way more fresh and kind of a band that sheds its skin already and made it way to a new level, kind of a recreating melodic death metal. How are you able to do that after more than 20 years being in a band of such as this?
But the thing is, we kind of we like certain things, but then we sort of want to keep those things fresh also. So there's a little bit of new stuff coming in all the time, and you rethink certain things, and every album seems to be a reaction to the last one, because if you've been out an album campaign for like 2-3 years, you sort of get certain things that you like, certain other things that you get tired of. That's why like no two albums are exactly the same, just because one album was just very fast, then it's sort of like the next one tends to be a bit more groovy, and things like that. One is very melodic, and the next one is going to be probably a bit more thrashy, or that's usually how it works. So we kind of shed a little bit of skin every album.
So you also have quite, soothing tracks in this album. I mean, I love those, in contrary to my, usual taste of music, which is more extreme. So would this mean what you, in essence, said, that the next one will be a really hard-ass killer album with extremities, or will you just kind of seep into the direction where things are more easy, approachable, mainstream maybe?
That all depends on what comes out. Songwriting wise, songs come out and they come and they live their own life, basically. You can arrange them in certain ways, but the song is, if it's melodic, if we're gonna come up with a bunch of really melodic songs, it's gonna be like a very melodic album. We don't really know. The only thing we know is it's gonna be not the same as this one, because it never is. It always tends to change. So it's wherever the music takes us, basically.
There was some criticism, and this is kind of a negative question in a way, about the lyrics. Somebody, when I did a review, actually a couple of them, and somebody was basically bitching that those lyrics are something that basically a teenager would write. Do you think this is true, or do you think this is just a matter of taste, or what's the case here?
I don't know. I mean, it's a matter of taste. I mean, it depends on what you like.
I mean, when talking about like cliches,
Yeah, I haven't really thought of it in those terms. I mean, every song carries either a story or a message, and they're sort of written in the best way to convey that. And people don't like it, don't listen to it. That's all I can say.
What would you say to your haters? Like, you are playing way too much music, you're going too much easy, you're not just trashy as it used to be. What would be your response?
You're being too whiny all the time. Go fuck yourself.
I totally love it. So what lies in ahead of Arch Enemy's near or maybe a near distant future?
More of this that we have today. Just touring, and then we might also do some touring.
What is your favorite go-to place when you tour? I mean, now you can be really, really subjecting and selective. No, nobody cares.
No, it's really difficult though. I mean, it's boring to give a very diplomatic answer, but
don't give a diplomatic. We're gonna
no, but I mean, it will sound diplomatic, but it is actually true, because every place has its own charm, and people, like the crowds, react differently wherever you go, just because, I mean, the rowdiest crowds you might have, like in Latin America, for example, because, they know their football chants and all that, and they'll sing along to the hi-hat if they could, you know what I mean? It's just, they're just so into it, whereas and they're extremely loud and noisy. And then you could be in Japan, where people are a bit more quiet. I mean, they're going while the song is going, but then it's like, shh, quiet, because they listen, they take stuff in, they're really
reserved.
Yeah, well, reserved in one way, but it's also like they pay attention in a different way.
Oh, he made a mistake with the tune.
Well, yeah, they do. I mean, you get 16-year-old girls coming up and wondering like why you didn't play the same note that you played on the album. Like, they pay attention, so it's great. And and it's all over Europe is different, America is different. So it's so hard to say, and you sort of like your favorite place changes as well. Because if you've been to America a lot, for example, then it's great to go somewhere else. But I wouldn't say like there's certain countries that then sort of like go up the list. Like lately, like Russia is one of the countries that we started to tour a bit more extensively, and it's been great. Same thing with China, that we now did 7 shows instead of like the usual like 2, and it was fantastic. So get to see more cities and go to like places that cities that you almost never heard of, and it's like, oh yeah, great. Is that a village somewhere? Yeah, a village with 22 million people.
But since you're not headlining, and this is by no means a negative comment, but you obviously have bands that you could be basically touring with if you get the chance. Would there be kind of your personal opinion? What band would you like to tour the most if you could do the choosing?
Oh God, we've been lucky that we toured with Maiden, we toured with Slayer, we toured with Megadeth. We've never toured with Priest though. So That would be really cool.
Doing something with Rob Halford and the rest of the group.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for the interview, but now it's time to send your regards to the fans. The word is yours.
Hello and goodbye.
These are some nice words from a guy who knows his shit. Stay tuned for Arch Enemy. Go check out their latest album if you haven't done it so far. Great album. You can see our review and lots of other reviews, and you won't be disappointed. Go on streaming services, whatever, and go to the shows. Check yourself before you...
Check somebody else.
Exactly. Thank you, and bye-bye.